G'day, my fellow media collectors. I'm Troy, and today we're looking at The Fantastic Four is a superhero film that was produced by Constantin Films and has not officially been released, although pirated copies have circulated since 1994, as well as various versions being available online. It's widely believed, though never officially confirmed, that Marvel Studios paid to ensure the film would never be released to avoid damaging the brand before a proper big budget version could be made. Now, depending on which source you believe, the original print of the film was ordered to be destroyed by then Marvel executive Avi Arad, or the original print has been stored all this time in a vault but never to be released. This Blu-ray has a runtime of 90 minutes. This Blu-ray version of the film was released in 2022. And it was distributed by Marty Langford. The story follows a space mission that goes awry when Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm are exposed to cosmic rays, granting them extraordinary powers. Reed becomes the stretchy Mr. Fantastic. Sue gains the ability to turn invisible. Johnny becomes the fiery Human Torch. And Ben is transformed into the super strong Thing. Together they form the Fantastic Four and must stop the evil Doctor Doom, Reed's former college rival, who seeks to harness a powerful energy source for world domination. Now, the script for this film is a fascinating and charming relic of early comic book cinema, and at its core, I mean, it's a well-meaning and occasionally earnest film, but ultimately it's hampered by a limited scope, some flat dialogue, and underdeveloped plot and characters, for that matter of fact. For anyone who knows the Fantastic Four comics, you can see that the writers were attempting to condense decades of comic book lore into this brisk, low-budget narrative, which was primarily aimed at preserving the character rights more than delivering a cohesive film for us. The pacing throughout this film is uneven at times, jumping quickly from origin story to a villain plot without giving the characters room to develop or grow. For instance, the script never really clearly defines Doom's ultimate plan beyond the usual vague world domination. The tone swings awkwardly between campy superhero antics and melodrama at times, with it often unintentionally veering into parody. While the movie takes some major beats from the comics, the storytelling is very simplified and campy and actually feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon mixed with a high school stage play. Look, it's sincere and somewhat charming in its retro comic book simplicity, but ultimately it just lacks depth, polish, and cohesion at the end of the day. Still, for fans of the original comics, the script offers an oddly endearing, if clumsily executed, attempt to bring Marvel's first family to life on screen. In the end, it's earnest, nostalgic, but it's ultimately flat and formulaic as well. And for that, oh look, the best I can do for this is a 10 out of 30. So this film is an adaptation from the original comic books and more in line with the 1960s comic books sensibilities and tones than, say, a modern adaptation of the source material. And ironically, some fans, including myself, would argue that despite its low quality, this 1994 version is probably the most faithful comic book adaptation to date with tone and character dynamics than, say, some of the later big budget adaptations.
Damn right!
Now look, the film had a tiny budget of about $1 million, and let's face it, that's extremely low for a superhero movie, right? Well, even by 1990s standards, that was pretty low. And some of the special effects aren't great, okay? But the film was still technically unfinished. And like, say for instance, the Human Torch scenes where he's all lit up were actually placeholders for better CGI to get put in there at a later time, but just never happened. But there is one thing that I want to know is, how is it this version of the Thing from this movie is still probably the best version of that character from a live action movie? And they had 3 goes after this movie with bigger budgets and better special effects.
I got nothing.
Anyway, at least this new movie that's coming out shortly has got the Thing right this time. Well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we all agree, guys.
Now, let's have a look at the cast, and I'll just grab them from here. As you can see, the cast list here, it's not that big at all. And for, say, the general public, they probably wouldn't know any of these actors because this was supposed to be their big break. But as the story goes, and insert here, check out the doomed doco about why that all happened. It never happened for them, and they kind of fell away into obscurity. Now, as the cast performances were all, well, how can I put it, campy and earnest to a degree across the board, which doesn't really set anyone apart. I'm just going to do like a quick fire review of every one. So what do you say we start with Alex Hyde-White as Reed Richards? Now, Hyde-White gives a measured, somewhat wooden performance as the team leader. And yes, he certainly looks the part, but his delivery is a bit stiff and kind of lacks that emotional weight or charisma needed to anchor the group and be that leader of the Fantastic Four. Rebecca Stabe as Sue Storm. Now, while she brings a gentle presence to the character of Sue, she's ultimately underwritten, and her performance, while being earnest as well, has no strength or presence to her portrayal and really is primarily there just to pine over Reed. Jay Underwood as Johnny Storm. He adds some energy to the film, attempting to inject Johnny with this brash charm that he's known for in the comics. But unfortunately, the material really limits him to mostly shallow wisecracks and awkward transitions into cartoon level heroics. Michael Bailey Smith and Carl Ciafalio as Ben Grimm and the Thing. Now look, Smith gives Ben a very wooden and forgettable performance at best, in my opinion, while Ciafalio, buried under all that rubber Thing suit, tries his best to emote through, shall we say, exaggerated body language, which kind of reduces it to a series of some awkward growls and cartoonish tantrums at best. Joseph Culp as a Doctor Doom. Now, Culp gives a scenery-chewing performance that veers hard into the campy nature of those early comic books. Beneath that stiff rubber mask and behind those exaggerated gestures, he channels Doom's theatrical nature, but without the gravitas and menace that the character is actually known for. Kat Green as Alicia Masters. She somehow manages to be gentle and kind, but also exaggeratedly melodramatic at the same time, as her character is nothing more than just a plot device than a character. Last but not least is Ian Trigger as the Jeweler. He gives us a bizarre, overacted performance that feels like he's aiming for the Looney Tunes crossover than a comic book movie. And he was actually supposed to be Mole Man, but due to licensing, had to change it to the Jeweler. Now look, everyone's performances bounce around between sincere and earnest to wooden and awkward. all trying their best to do what they can with what they had, but they couldn't really pull it off, unfortunately. And for that, I'm going to give this a 12 out of 20. As we look at the case, I absolutely love this case. It has this whole old comic book style look to it, which I think, I'm sorry, it is fantastic. It looks really good. There's like a little price tag and everything on there. It does look great. And then on the side, that actually pops on your thing. It's in one of those little, you Americans have these thinner cases. That still looks good on your shelf. And on the back, great again. I think they have done a fantastic job on this. They really have. It looks really good. I mean, it's a little low resolution for my liking, but I'm guessing, you know, they didn't really have a lot picture-wise out there that they could work with, so they've gone for that sort of faded resolution look. Now, if we look at the disc, yeah, nothing really special there. It's pretty standard, but at least they've put something on there, which I think is good. Possibly could have done something a little better, but that's just me nitpicking. I mean, overall, this is fantastic. I know I keep using that word, but it's a real fantastic job. They've done a really good job on it, and I've really got to tip my hat to them. This, I'm definitely going to give this an 8 out of 10. There are a couple of special features on this Blu-ray, and they include a commentary by director Ole Sassoon and the theatrical trailer. Now, I haven't watched the commentary. I sort of ran out of time before I did this review. But if you've ever watched the Doom doco, then I would say that Ole Sassoon would have some great stuff to talk about, and it would really be worth watching. I'm definitely going to give it a watch at some stage. And of course, we have this gorgeous 35mm sourced trailer that has been transferred to 1080p, and it looks amazing. It kind of gives you a feel of what a high-res version of this film might actually look like if they had the film to source it from. Now, the fact that this is a bootleg copy of this film and it has some special features is a miracle in itself. And even though there are only 2, I am going to give this a 5 out of 10. As I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics came in at 27%, while the audience score came in at not much better at 32%. Now look, there is no surprise that the scores are what they are. But for me personally, I find that the vast majority of the reviews are unfair, as I would say no one has really taken into account that this movie was rushed and is technically still never properly finished. So to give it that harsh a review is just not really fair in my books, because, you know, they say
haters gonna hate.
So anyway, if we round it all out, we're gonna get a score of, sadly, 3 out of 10. So this is my new and improved updated review of the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, which most of my regular viewers out there will know that I had made a previous review of this years ago, but not long ago, Constantin Films did a copyright strike on me and I had to take the video down. Look, I've done a whole video about it. If you want to find out about it, I'm not going to go into the reasons all again. But you may have noticed that I've used barely, let's just say, a bare minimum of pictures and no footage whatsoever.
Yes, we had noticed that.
And why is that, you ask? It's for the sole purpose that I don't get flagged for copyright, and I want this review out there, as this film is a piece of history that should be preserved and should be talked about. And it also should be finished, you know, and released officially in some capacity. Like, we need to do something about it. Which, check out my other video I have released today as well, which will point you in the direction where you can help and try and actually officially get it released. Now look, for me, this is probably about the 5th or 6th time I've watched this movie over the years. And to me, I don't know, somehow it just keeps getting better. Sure, it's unfinished and sure, it's a rust job, but if you look past all of that, you can see the heart and earnestness in this film. Even with all the campy charm in the world, it just makes it endearing to an old comic book fan like myself. I love this film and for what it stands for in the history of comic book movies. And look, I pray one day I can own an official copy for my collection. That's a finished movie. But for the time being, I have this great copy that I can watch till then. And for that, you can probably guess where this is going. I'm going to give this movie a 20 out of 20. Now, for availability, this is definitely a 5 out of 5. You will have to look for it, and there are only really a couple of places where you can find this really good copy. For collectability, I'm definitely going to put this as a 5 out of 5, as this is a must-have cult classic for your collection. There are no two ways about it. The average price, you are looking at somewhere between the $19 to $28 mark for the Blu-ray, so it always pays to shop around. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Now, for the final score, we get a grand total of 68 out of 100. Wow, what a great score for a piece of superhero movie history. Hell, just comic book history in general. Here's hoping that one day Marvel will wake up to themselves and release this movie for us fans that love it and demand it.
This needs to happen now.
Next week on the show, we have my review of the Fantastic Four movie from 2005 on Blu-ray, so make sure you tune in for that one. Thanks for watching.